reading whole numbers to billions and writing it in word form and looking at what standard form is. Okay, the first thing that we talk to students and we remind them is about place value. And in place value we have houses. And in our first house we have 3 places in this house. It's the ones, the tens, and the hundreds. And we call this house the units house. Then we leave a space, and in this house there could only ever be 3 numbers in a house. So we make 3 lines and we call this, it's still the ones, the tens, and the hundreds, but we call this house the thousands house. Okay, then we leave a space, 1, 2, 3, because we have another house, and as you notice, we start at the right and we go to the left when we talk about our place value. And this house is even bigger. And this house is called our millions house. And the 3 bedrooms that are in it are ones, tens, and hundreds. And the last house that we talk about in our whole numbers is our billions house. And our billions house, even though it's big, it can only house 3 people. This is billions. And once again, it's our ones, tens, hundreds. So your students know that this is the ones, tens, hundreds, 1,000, 10,000s, 100,000s, millions, 10 millions, 100 millions, billions, 10 billions, 100 billions. Now when we talk about reading these numbers, we talk about our houses having spaces in between them. For example, we have grass in between, there's grass between the houses, or a lot of times there's fences between a house. And even apartments, people don't live all together. You don't live with the person in the apartment next to you. So in that case, these houses, there's a wall between that person's house and somebody else's house. For example, the Witts don't live with the Woodwards if the Woodwards live next door. No, we each have our own separate space. And that's important to talk to the kids, because we say that we hold commas between the houses to separate the houses. Now when we teach them how to read a house, we start out with making up a number. And when we read from our biggest house to our smallest house. Now the important thing you need to know is that no house has a number bigger than 3 numbers. So the largest number we're going to say in a house is 100. Then what we're going to do is, and they really need to know that, it's like street names for houses. Like I may live at 411 Phillip Street. Well, we don't say street, we say house. That's the only difference, is we wouldn't name our street name, we would name the house that it was in. So this first one is 531 billion. So we read our house name. 276 million. And of course, when we talk about our houses, we make them plural. But when we do this, when we read it, we don't make it plural. So let me start over on that. 531 billion, 276 million, 581,032. And with our last house, we don't have to say units because we know it's understood that our last house has nothing and there is nothing. Now word form is then very easy for the students. All we have to do is know how to spell. But we start out reading the first number, 531 billion. And just the way that we said it is the way that we write it. 531 billion. And then we have a comma. Then we have 276 million, 276 million, $581,500. I put a comma here. 81,000. And the last thing we're going to say is 32. So the students will then know how to read it, read the number, and if you can read the number, you can write it in word form. Okay? The other thing we talk about is this form right here where it's written with numbers is called standard form. And standard form just means the normal way we would write the number. If I ask somebody to write 542, they're not going to write out 542. They're going to write 542. That's the normal way that we would write that if we heard that number. So that's what standard form is written in numbers. So this is the video on how we kind of teach them to read the numbers, to realize there can only be 3 numbers in a house, and this helps your students when they get comma happy, that there can only be 3 numbers before you have it. There needs to be 3 numbers before you have a comma. Thank you.